So my name is Maddie, if you're new here. What's up? If you're not new, hi y'all. So last night this is such a long story, we're not even gonna go into that. I ended up writing down a list of story times. Like, I've been kind of texting them to myself as I thought of them, and I kind of have a whole page of them. So I decided to write out 2 of them that are going to be their own videos. So some of them are short enough to be combined, but this one is definitely not one of those. So I've never really done story times on my channel, but I kind of have a lot. And now most of them, like, I was in high school, and so I didn't want to tell them about high school. You know, I didn't want all of that because kids at my school did watch these videos. I'm sure some of them still do now. Hi guys. Yeah, so before this story time is going to be, I feel like okay, why I missed my high school graduation. And it's kind of a rough story, but it's definitely interesting. Like, it's not like I went partying and like went missing or anything like that. Like, I promise you have not heard a story time like this. Okay? Okay. So, just a heads up, this is going to be kind of a longer story. I can't tell you how long. And this happened almost a year ago, and I tried to film it twice. And the first time I cried the whole time, and then the second time I ended up just leaving out a lot, and I like wasn't feeling it. And so now I'm back again. Okay. So we'll just start out this story. Let's jump in. So the first thing is that I was not the biggest fan of high school. It was not for me. I mean, I like enjoyed the learning part, but I did not like the people there. It was not, no. And so I was basically walking the stage for my family and not for me. I would have been fine not walking the stage. Also my senior year, like, I was in CNA school. I went to that graduation. Like, I was just walking the stage for my family, and I had a lot of I had family coming in from Ohio. I had family coming in from Minnesota. So this was like a pretty big thing. I'm also the oldest grandchild and the like oldest child in my family, obviously, if I'm the oldest grandchild. So I'm like the first to graduate high school, which high school I know is not as big of a deal as college, and everyone in my family pretty much except for one of my grandparents has graduated high school. So, but this is still like a big deal. Like, I'm the first one, okay, but in my mind I'm like, it's high school, like everyone's doing it, you know, like, okay, but they wanted to make a big deal, so I was like, all right, fine, I will walk the stage for you guys because I love my parents, and, you know, they asked me to very nicely. Well, but I told them, hey, I don't think I want to walk the stage. My dad was like, you're not doing it for you. And I was like, okay, then we had this whole talk about it. So we'll just start, like, the morning of graduation. I think I was supposed to graduate on May 25th or 26th, one of the two. And I was at rehearsal, like most high schools do this. Like, you show up, you, like, go through everything. It's like a rehearsal dinner for a wedding, like. And we were supposed to be standing while, like, they told us everything, like, in our seats. And I just got this feeling, like, I'm not going to be here tonight. Like, I just had this overwhelming feeling. And I was like, huh, like, maybe that's just in my head because I don't want to come. Like, I wasn't against it. I wasn't fighting my parents, obviously, but I wasn't, like, psyched. Because high school graduations, like, there's a bunch of speeches. Like, it's just, I was not excited, basically. I was excited to go out to eat afterwards and for my party the next day. So I ended up sitting down while we were supposed to be standing, and this person behind me was like, Madeline, stand up. I don't even remember who it was. And I was like, no, like, I just felt like this overwhelming feeling of, like, I'm not going to be here. Like, I am just not going to make it for some reason. Which was so weird. Like, I guess it's like, sometimes I will get this feeling, like, you just know, but it hasn't happened a lot in my life. So we end up, like, taking this group picture, and I'm just like, okay, like I'll take this group picture or whatever. We go back and I end up at home. So this is where I want to backtrack a little bit. So my dad is 41. I'll insert a picture of him. He is a lovely human being. I adore my father. He is just a great man. Like, wow, yes. I wish, like, I always say to, like, my friends and, like, people around me, like, I wish everyone could have a Brandon and a Leon in their lives. Those are my parents. There's a picture of them. They're very cute. They're a couple goals. Anyway, and, my dad has had some different health issues. So he's had spinal fusion surgery. He's had hernia repair. Recently, he was diagnosed with arthritis in his hands. So he's had some different issues. He is a veteran, which has contributed to some of these and just different things. So he needed to have a surgery. And for his privacy, there are some surgeries that people just don't want public for whatever reason, and I am going to respect his privacy. He asked me not to put this on the internet of what surgery he did have. So he had a surgery, is all we're going to say. And his surgery was the Thursday before my graduate. Like, why am I so bad at explaining this? So it's like Thursday, and then Thursday, like a week, and then Friday's my graduation. So it's been a week and a day since his surgery. And during this whole time, he had a really, really rough recovery. So he was having a fever, he was bleeding, like it was just not a good time. And my mom ended up calling, and they were like, well, he's just like on recovery, things can go really well, or really like kind of rougher, and he's within like normal limits, like he's fine. And I think they ended up going back to the doctor at some point because my mom was like, this is just not okay. And they were like, he's fine, which he was not fine, by the way. No, we ended up figuring out a lot, and I'm like still annoyed about it. So no. So, and I feel like him doing bad is maybe part of the reason I had the feeling that I wasn't going to be there. And honestly, I did not want to go to rehearsal. I want to stay home with my dad. Like, thankfully that last week I had half days and I could go home and like stay with him. And I mean, he wasn't doing awful, but he just didn't feel good. And he's someone that likes to get up and do things and is so independent. And I was just like, I don't want him to get hurt, like just panicking, right? So yeah. And on this day, we went and got Carter from school. And I drove him. Yes, Carter had a half day, I believe, for some reason. I think that their last day of school was also my last day of school, I believe. See, it's been a year. So we went and got Carter. My dad still couldn't drive, I don't think. I think he was still on prescription painkillers, so I drove him, and he really wanted to ride, and we went and got him. It was a fun time. So I come home, and graduation started at 7, so it was like 2 p.m. And let me set this scene for you. My mom's at Zumba in the next town over. My sister and her friend, who ended up being a really big BITCH, and when I show pictures from my graduation, I put Ty's face over hers because, one, I don't want her seeing this video and being like, don't talk about me, or no, absolutely not. I'm just not having her in my picture. Like, that's a whole nother, I normally don't talk crap about people, but she did my sister really wrong. So then at the house is me, my brother, who was 13 at this time, my dad's mom, my dad's stepdad, and then my grandmother adopted her brother's child, and she is, I believe, 11 when this story happened. And so she is technically my aunt, my dad's sister. I call her my cousin because, like, she's younger than me. I don't call her Aunt Erica, like, she's my cousin Erica, because she's like the ages of my cousins. Like, well, she's actually would be, it's us 3 kids and then her and then all of our other cousins. So anyway, we're all at the house, and it's like 2 o'clock, and I was like, oh, like, I need to kind of start getting ready, like, okay, like, I want to take my time, and I really enjoy getting ready for things, so I wanted to take my time, you know, all of that, and kind of tell myself I wasn't going to be rude to anyone, you know. So my dad was outside weed eating, and he was holding like an 11-pound weed eater. Maybe it's like 6 pounds. It's not heavy, and he wanted, so we were going to have my graduation party the next day at my house. And my dad's surgery couldn't really be put off. Like, it was already an issue, and so they just had to do it at this time. And because I feel like I didn't mind that he had surgery at this time, but I know it caused a lot of stress on both my parents, like my mom trying to do this graduation party, my dad trying to get the house ready because we're having it like under a carport. Like, it was just a lot of stress on them. So my dad really wanted to weed eat around the house, make it look nice, and I was like, you know what, it's like a light weed eater. It's been a week and a day since his surgery. Like, he can start getting back to normal life when he like feels, basically it was like how he feels he could do what he needed, if that makes sense. So I'm about to go shower, and my dad comes in, and there was blood on his clothing from where he had surgery. Like, everywhere. And I was, so background again, I'm a CNA, so I am trained in basic emergency stuff, and like basic healthcare. And I just told him, like, I can go help you clean this up. Like, at this point, like, I'm like, you're obviously, something's wrong, like, it's not okay, like, I will help you. If you want help, like, if you need something, like, you're my dad, I love you, like, what do you need, basically. And he was just really embarrassed. Like, his mom noticed it first, and so he was like, I just want to go take care of it. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go shower. And I go to get in the shower. I'm, like, in the bathroom naked, which just plays a role, believe it or not. And my shower and my dad's shower share a wall, like the bathroom. And I'm about to start the water, and I think I hear yelling. And I'm like, that's weird. And then I'm like, oh my God, that's my dad yelling. So I wrap a towel around me. I go out. As I'm about to open my bedroom door, my grandma whips it open, and she's like, your dad's screaming for you. I run in there, and there's just blood everywhere. And this is something that I will never forget. And then my dad was just so scared. And I've seen my dad annoyed, mad. Like, I have never seen him terrified like this. Like, this was another level. So I'm like, okay, hang on. I don't see, this is where, like, things get kind of blurry for me. Like, at some point, I think first I went and grabbed stuff to help stop the bleeding. I ended up grabbing a feminine pad to just, like, catch the blood. Like, we could put it on the area. And I'm like, you know, we have to, like, dress him, all this stuff. And I sent my dad's stepdad in there. I'm like, help him. Because in my mind, I'm like, if my dad falls, like, I know how to lower him to the ground, but I can't, like, stop him necessarily as good as my step-grandfather could. Which I just call my grandpa. His name's Goozer. So I'm like, Goozer, please go in there and just help him get dressed. I'm going to call my mom. And in my mind, I'm still like, I can drive him there. So I call my mom. I'm like, hey, dad's bleeding. I'm about to drive him to the ER. Which would have been faster than the ambulance. So the ER is like 15 minutes from my house. And the ambulance ended up taking 30 minutes to get there. Okay. Tea. Anyway. So my dad just started screaming, call an ambulance. And I was like, okay. So I hung up with my mom. I called 911. And this is something I don't remember dialing 911 or anything. Like, my dad ended up going out into the kitchen and, like, laying on the floor. And I ended up going outside. Like, there was absolute chaos in the house. And I was like, let me give some more background too. My grandmother and my grandfather are not the most, like, assertive human beings, so, which will end up coming into play later. So I'm like, Dad, lay there. Goozer, stay with him. Everyone else sit in the, like, I was, like, cussing at this point. I was like, because everyone's asking me what to do. I'm like, Dad, lay down. Goozer, stay with him. Don't give him anything to eat or drink. Because we were told not, like, even the ambulance, the 911 operator told me not to in case he had to go into emergency surgery, like that. No. So, I was like, don't give him anything to eat or drink. Stay with him. Everyone sit down. Like, the dogs are losing their minds. Everyone's running around. I'm like, sit down. Everyone sit. I'm going to go outside and talk to the 911 operator. Like, I'd be like, hang on. Okay. So I went outside. And I'm like, hey, my dad had this surgery. This has been what's happening. You know, giving her the rundown. And I felt like she was taking forever to answer me back. And I know she wasn't, and she's very sweet and good at her job, but I was like, I need you just to get someone to my house. Like, it was not, like, I'm kind of getting stressed out again talking about it. Ooh, it's gonna be fine. So I give her all the necessary information, our address, what our house looks like, all of this stuff. There's a train. I hope y'all can't hear it. And she just goes, what's your dad's age? And that is the one thing I could not remember. I like blanked. I was like, and he was 40 at the time, and I was like, he's 40. You know, I like gave his birthday, everything else, and I couldn't give his age. Okay, sorry, Ty just called me. He's in his new class. So back to where I was. I'm on the phone, forgot my dad's age, all that jazz. And I go back inside, and all hell has broke loose. No one's sitting like I asked them to. I mean, honestly, I was on the phone for like 3 minutes max. And everyone's like, ah! And I'm like the number one thing to do in an emergency is try not to panic. And like everyone's panicking but me. And I'm just like, okay, so so I come back in, and I'm trying to get the dogs into bedrooms so that way when, like, they said they were going to send our fire department in our little town and then the ambulance, and then a cop from our hometown showed up too, like the chief of police showed up as well to check on everything. So, which I don't know if he was just, like, supposed to, or if they, like, it was just because we live in a small town, but it was really nice. Anyway, so, I'm trying to wrangle dogs and, like, keep everyone calm, and especially check on my dad. Like, he hasn't passed out yet. Like, we're still doing good there. But I know that he's losing a lot of blood, and that's scaring me. And my dad is just, like, he's trying to stay calm, but he's not doing a very good job. Like, he's really scared, and me comforting him, like, as his child, like, I was 18, but as his child, is not very comforting. Like, I was telling him it's going to be okay, but it's just not the same, I guess. Like, he was just like, no, like, it was not doing it. So, at this point, no one's listening to me. I remember that. And then my dad just starts going, guys, Erica passed out. Because all of a sudden I heard a thud. And I assumed it was one of the dogs in the bedroom, like, jumping into something, like Oreo being stupid or Max, like, one thing or another. Like, I put them all in different rooms. And no, it was my cousin hitting the wall, completely falling and hitting her head on the wall. And all of a sudden, Goozer runs over and starts trying to stand her up. If someone is passed out and still unconscious, you don't try to stand them up. It's not going to work. So Carter actually knew this, and he was like, no, lay her down and elevate her feet. And I was like, he's right. And I walked over, and in my mind, I ran over. Also, at this point, I'm still on the phone with the 911 operator because she's trying to keep me, like, calm. And I was like, look, my little cousin just passed out. My mom's going to be home soon. Like, I'm a CNA. Like, I have to go wrangle my family. I got to go. And she was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, sorry. Like, send them here. Because, like, they're trained to stay on the phone with you until emergency services get there, which I understand. But I was just like, I can't. Bye. So I go over, and she's still breathing, thankfully. So I didn't have to do CPR on her. And we elevated her feet, and she woke up crying. But then she passed out again, like, while she was still on the ground. So she ended up waking up, and the reason she passed out is she is deathly afraid of blood, and I guess, like, it was so high stress, and my dad had some blood on him. It wasn't a lot at this point, but it still freaked her out, and everyone was, like, losing their minds at this point. I don't know what my hair is doing over here. So she just hit the floor, and we ended up going and getting her checked out. In case I forget to mention, she went to an urgent care to make sure she didn't have a concussion, and because she passed out twice, they wanted to make sure there wasn't anything wrong with her heart, and she was good to go. She had a little scrape on her elbow, but other than that, like, she was good. No concussion, nothing like that, because the way she fell, I think, like, her head hit the wall, so, like, it wasn't as hard as our tile. So yeah, she was good. And we ended up sending her, I don't know, I think she just ended up sitting at the table. And after she hit the floor, so Goozer's trying to stand her up. My grandmother starts screaming in the kitchen. And I was like, Beth, what are you doing? Like, I called her by her first name, and she was like, my baby's, like, one of them passed out, one of them's, like, dying on the floor. Like, I don't remember what she said, but it was not needed. And I was like, Beth, like, she does not handle stressful situations well. So I just was like, Beth, I need you to get in your car and go to the end of the road and put your flashers on. Because we live kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and lots of houses will look alike. Like, it's kind of hard to find our house. I was like, I need you to go down there. And I think I was still on the phone with the emergency services person. I think I had set my phone down. And I told her there's going to be a blue car down there with its flashers on. And then I said, I got to go. So my grandmother goes down there. puts her flashers on, and is at the end of the road. So at this point, my mom comes barreling up the frickin' driveway. And through our small town, the speed limit's like 30. My mom was like, I was doing like 75, 80. And I 100% believe this woman. And I asked her, like, what if you would have gotten it, like, tried to pull you over? And she's like, I just would have stuck my hand out the window and told him to just keep coming with me. Thankfully, she didn't get pulled over. I know that's dangerous, but, like, this was a really stressful situation. So my mom gets home, and then right as my mom gets home, like, she comes barreling up the freaking driveway. I'm like, Mom's here, like, it's okay. And then our fire department shows up. And I'm pissed at this point because I'm like, it's been like 15 minutes. Where is the ambulance? So they're volunteer firefighters, and I applaud people that volunteer their time doing anything that's beneficial to others or like animals. But I was like, what are they going to do? But they actually ended up being able to check, like, his blood sugar, his blood pressure, like, actually being able to do a lot for him. So that was really great. I guess I really underestimated them. So at this point, like, they come in, they're doing all that, and this is what breaks my heart. So my dad's, like, on the floor still, and he just starts going, I'm so sorry, Maddie. I'm so sorry. And I was just like, for what? Like, what do you mean you're sorry? And he's like, this is your day. Like, I'm sorry. And I was like, no. Like, stop that. And his blood pressure and, like, blood sugar levels were fine. Like, he was a little lower than he normally is, but he was within normal limits on his blood pressure. And he was losing blood, but never did he become anemic, or they never had to transfuse blood even when we got to the hospital. So you can lose a good amount of blood, I guess. Oh my God, my hair is pissing me off. We'll just do that. So, at this point, I go down to the end of the road to wait for the ambulance because, like, my mom's there. Like, the situation is being handled by a real grown-up. So the ambulance gets there, and I am just like, get in my freaking house. I'm like, this is my house. Get in there. Like, when they're pulling up, and then they get out. They go in. Simba was outside, I believe, at this point. Or maybe I had put him in Elizabeth's room. I don't quite remember. But they're not allowed to, like, enter your house. Like, just go in. So I was like, get in here. Like, I whipped open the door. I was like, okay, go. And yeah, they went and they put him on the stretcher thing. I think it was a stretcher. Yeah, they put him on the stretcher. And then they put him in the ambulance. And at this point, my mom had also, I believe before Zuma went and got me, like, flowers and a few things for the party the next day. So we have, like, cold things, like, I don't remember how they got brought in, honestly, and, like, flowers were thrown on the ground. Like, it is just, nothing matters at this point. So, they take him out to the ambulance at this point. We all load up in the Suburban, and Elizabeth's getting home right at this point as well, because my mom had called her. And they're, like, running to get in the Suburban, and then they waited a while with the ambulance. They were trying to get an IV started on him, and they rode without the lights on, which is a good sign. So we just followed behind him. It means he's not dying. So, it may seem like he was to me, but he was not. Because you can lose, I don't remember exactly how much blood it is, but when you lose even a little bit of blood, it can look like a lot. Like, blood is very scary. So, I just want to say, like, it looked like he was losing a lot, and he did lose a good amount of blood. But, like, when you give blood, you give a pint. Like, you give 1/8 of your blood. And I don't remember exactly how much you can give. But, yeah, he ended up being, okay, like, not the... I'm just trying to say he lost a lot of blood, but it wasn't enough to, like, kill him. I mean, he got lightheaded and stuff, obviously, but, my little curly cute. Leon, is that you? So, we ride behind them, and then we end up calling on the way there. I believe we called my grandmother, and my mom was like, hey, like, these flowers are, like, somewhere, and I have, like, lunch meat or something that needs to be put in the fridge. And so she kind of handled all of that. And then we get to the hospital, and they pulled up with the ambulance. And the ambulances go somewhere where you are not allowed to go. So I am, like, sprinting up because in my mind, it is still a life or death situation, which I think is valid, like, at that moment. So I run up, and I'm just screaming, like, I love you, Dad. And, like, someone, like, I don't remember who exactly it was, but some staff person was like, you can't go back there. I was like, I know. And I'm just screaming that I love him. And he heard me. My mom was like, Maddie, like, you can't go over there. Like, I didn't cross the line, but I got really close. Like, there's this, like, bar, and I was like on the bar like screaming. So we go in and we're sitting there waiting, and they have to like assess him and do all of that, and we weren't allowed back. So we're just sitting there. Carter ends up having a panic attack. My mom finally starts crying, and this is when I finally started crying. I didn't cry through any of that, and I just started sobbing. Like, complete meltdown. We're all in the waiting room just like... So at this point, it's probably like 2:45, 3-ish. And we're like, we're starving. So Elizabeth goes and gets Rosa's with her friend, and we knew like we had a while. They told us like it's going to be a minute before you can go back. Like, we have to assess him. Like, this is an emergency situation, obviously. Like, we can't have you in the way. And this is pretty standard in the US. Like, if there's an emergency, even if you're a spouse or even if you're a kid, sometimes like they need to be able to work on the person, and you just cannot be in the way, especially if you're going to be distressed. So there was obviously going to be blood and stuff, and they did not need us passing out or us in the way or any of that, or crying or screaming. No. So I understand it, but it was still very like traumatizing waiting, I guess. So they go get food. We're like scarfing the food down, and eventually we've been eating. Carter, like, we're all still just like sitting in there. Like, we probably looked like crazy. My mom's in her Zumba outfit. I'm in like shorts and a t-shirt that I threw on. Elizabeth, I don't even remember what she was wearing. Like, we look like a hot mess. Okay? Like, hot mess. Not even like a cute mess. Like, an ugly mess. And I keep walking up to the front desk, and I'm like, can we go back? Can we go back? And she's like, no, like, I'll call you. Like, I'm sorry. Like, the lady was super nice because I literally asked her like 6 times. And then at like, I want to say like 3:30, like, we were there for a minute. They called my mom and one other person could go back. They're like, we can have 2 people at a time. So my mom goes back with Elizabeth, I believe. And then my mom texted me and was like, just bring Carter to the door. So Elizabeth's friend stayed with our stuff. She's like, just come to the door, say you want to go back, like, say where you're going. And we just like snuck back. Like, we weren't supposed to be back there. So all of us are back there. And then my mom's coworker showed up and didn't have to say who she was to us or anything, and just asked where my dad was, and they just told her. Which, like, okay, we knew her, but if we didn't, like, they're just giving out, that is so not okay. That is illegal and not safe, but I mean, we didn't really care. So we're supposed to have 2 people in the room, and all of a sudden it's my dad and 5 other freaking people, and we like all snuck back there. So a nurse comes in, and there's like the 2 visitor limit, and we're all like, hi, and he's like, oh. So we ended up getting to hang out with him for a little bit, talk to him. Like, my dad was still able to talk, like he was still cognizant, which was really good to see. And then what happened next? So this doctor comes in. Thankfully, my dad's surgeon was there, and they bumped a surgery so he could go in. And at this point, like, we had to hang out back there for like half an hour. And my dad was like, what time is it? And I told him it's 4. And he goes, oh my gosh, you better go start getting ready because graduation's in 3 hours. And I was like, I'm not going. Like, I was so baffled. I was like, I am not going. And he was like, Maddie. And I was like, look, I'm not walking on stage for me. I'm doing it for you guys. Mom is not going to want to leave you. We're all going to be stressed the whole time. And as soon as you come out of surgery, I'm leaving no matter what. And I can't even have my phone on the floor. So, like, I'm not going. And he was just sitting there trying to convince me. And I was like, Dad, I'm not leaving this hospital without you. And he was like, you know what, if that's the decision you want to make, okay, like, you're an adult, if that's what you want to do. And I was like, yep, I'm not leaving. Because, like, my mom obviously wouldn't want to left, neither would my siblings. Like, I don't care to go. Like, everyone's going to be annoyed and stressed the whole time. Like, no. So, yeah, we ended up, at that point, this doctor came in and was like, we're going to prep him for surgery. Like, you know, all of that takes so much time in the hospital. So we ended up going to this other waiting room, and my dad had to wait for surgery for, like, 3 hours. Like, he was alone in this room. We could have gone back. He was okay at this point. Like, he knew, like, not gonna die. So at this point, we're sitting there, and he goes into surgery. We wanted, or no, yes, I think we ran home after he was moved to this new area. So we're like, okay, we have 4 dogs, a cat, and 2 goats at home that have not been fed dinner, and like our phones are about to die. Like none of us, like we have phones and ourselves, like that is all we have. So we're like, we need to go grab phone chargers, we need to like do all of this, because people were like trying to see what was going on. Like we texted people like, hey, I'm missing graduation. At this point we started telling them, like, yeah. So we ended up running home, and on the way home, it was us 3 kids. We took my mom's Suburban. My mom stayed there, and like my mom wanted a sweatshirt, stuff like that. So we, on the way home, I was like, you know, me graduating was a really big deal to Mom and Dad and like other people, and I was like, I really still want to give Mom a graduation. So I told my siblings, like, we were trying to hurry, so I was like, we're going to run in, grab chargers, feed animals, and I was like, I am going to change shoes. I looked like this. I didn't have hair, makeup done, nothing. I was like, I'm going to change my shoes into my sandals that I was supposed to wear, and then I'm going to grab my cap and gown and the flowers, and we're going to do a graduation for Mom. If I have a clip, I'll insert it, but basically, we had Elizabeth go up and give my mom the flowers and say, take these, you're gonna, like, I rode up on the next elevator. So they went up and they were like, hold these, you're about to give these to Madeline in a second. And then they had Elizabeth started playing the graduation music, like da 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 da, whatever that song's called. And then I think it's just called like the graduation song, honestly. And then Elizabeth's friend was like, I present to you Madeline Moore, and I had like this thing I'd gotten at CNA school, and I like shook her hand, and I present to you the class of 2018, and I like threw my hat, and like it was a whole thing. My mom loved it. It was a lot of fun. I present to you the class of 2018, Madeline Moore. Aww. Okay. And then, ladies and gentlemen, class of 2018. Yay! Much faster than. We didn't have any long speeches prepared, guys. Come on. Okay. Yeah, so that was something really special I got to do for her. And then I kind of hung out in my cap and gown when people came to see me. And everyone was like, you're handling this so well. And I was like, my dad's going to live. Like, I thought I was going to lose him a couple hours ago. Like, and we're hanging out. Like, people come see us, like our pastor, like all that, friends. And my dad went into surgery at 7 o'clock when graduation started, which is kind of crazy. My dad ended up coming out of surgery. We did the mock graduation even faster. My dad barely remembers it. We ended up going home, and we put my dad to bed. He's really drugged. We put him to bed, and then I wanted to go out with my sister and my friend, so I went out and got my nose pierced. Still have it done a year later. Love it. And I didn't tell my mom I was doing it, but she mapped me and was like, oh, you're really doing it? And I was like, yeah. And then the next day we had my graduation party, and my dad was not supposed to walk too much, and like anytime he would come outside to visit with people and would go back in, I would tell people like, hey, you go walk in with him, like don't leave him. And some people would go inside and visit with him, which was really nice, and he really took it easy. And his recovery after surgery was a lot different. There was no bleeding, there was no fever, and he was told that he could take ibuprofen for pain management, and after the second surgery he was told not to. His doctor said that he should not have been weed eating, and that, okay, but like he was told he could do, like if he had an 11-pound baby, like he wasn't supposed to pick up a baby, like that was just very odd. And what my dad ended up doing was popping stitches. So, but we think something was wrong the whole time. The second time he was given antibiotics, which I guess he should have been given the first time. So it was just very not good. My mom went in and was like, what the fagakis? And yeah, so that was And then the graduation party, like, my mom was really stressed about. And then the next day we were just like, you know, like, it does not have to be perfect. Like, that's not what matters, and that's not why we're here. And, like, it kind of gave us a new perspective on things. Like, a couple weeks later, a dog shredded the chair. Oreo shredded a chair, and my dad was like, it's a chair. Like, it's a nice leather chair, but it's just a chair. So it, like, gave us all a new perspective. For a while, though, I was, like, handing my dad his water and, like, oh, you need to be drinking. And I was, like, up his butt, basically. And I would call him all the time and text him, like, hey, are you okay? Like, what are you doing? Don't lift anything up. Like, I was really, like, in his business about it. And it ended up kind of annoying him. And he's like, I don't think that's healthy. Like, whatever. And he ended up, I think a therapist or someone was just like, just let her do it. Like, she went through something really traumatic with you, because I was the one there handling it. Like, I saw everything, and they were like, just let her take care of you and she'll eventually stop. And I did. Like, I only did that for like the first 2 weeks it was really bad, and then like after, I mean, I like 3 or 4 weeks in, I was completely done after his surgery. So he just got kind of annoyed because he doesn't like to be babied, and I was like, drink your water, like, make sure you're not picking things up. Like, I was just very, very worried about him, which I think makes sense. So it gave me a lot of appreciation for having my dad in my life, and it was a very big, traumatic, scary thing that happened, but I think we all learned a lot from the experience. I think we could have gone without the experience, but I guess it's a way to turn it into a positive. And yeah, my dad is healthy this time of year for Elizabeth, so that's really great. And his surgery did what it was supposed to in the end. And so he is completely recovered now. Obviously, it's been a year, but that was the story of how I missed my high school graduation. So you guys let me know if you guys missed your graduation and why. I'd really be curious to know. Not if you skipped, but also my high school diploma, they didn't mail it to me. And I went with Elizabeth to take her senior pictures in the summer before her senior year, like this last summer. And the secretary saw me and was like, I have your diploma. Like, do you want it? Like, come get it. Like, when we were at the school we saw her. So I walked in, like, because we were in the gym taking pictures. So I went and got my diploma. And I have it. And yeah. So that's my life. I have more crazy stories. So all of this was true, and I wouldn't lie. I just feel the need to say that in case someone was like, she's dramatic. Also, I want to say that I texted this girl, and I was like, hey, I'm not going to be there at graduation. Like, make sure, like, that way I was trying to be courteous so they weren't like, Madeline Moore, and then, like, no one's there. Like, that would be awkward AF. And so that way they could adjust the line and everything, because obviously, like, they didn't want an empty seat. So I was like, hey, like, I'm not going to be there if you can just let principal know. And she ended up directing me to this guy that was like our class president, all this stuff. And he was like, I really think you should come. Because he asked what was going on. And I was like, oh, my dad, like, almost died. Like, I'm at the hospital. He had surgery and had complications. Like, I'm not coming. And he was like, well, I think you should come because that's disrespectful to everyone that set it up. They'll get over me not coming. Like, I'm sorry, what? And he was just trying to encourage me to come and be like, well, that's, like, disrespectful. I don't freaking care. Like, I ended up just being like, I'm not coming, period. Like, I don't care. And they were like, maybe we can come to the hospital and do a little graduation for you. And I was like, no, like, just go to graduation and, like, leave me alone. Like, I don't. I just felt like that was very rude of him. Like, obviously, he's never been in a situation like that. And I try not to, like, judge him for that. But I was just like, I'm not coming. Like, that's not, So, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I have more story times to come. They're not all sad. Some of them are very funny. So, you guys got to know me a little bit. Like I said, my name is Maddie. If you want to subscribe, that'd be awesome. I upload, well, okay, we'll say 3 times a week, every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Tuesdays I normally do like a mental health talk, and this is one, or like self-care talk, where I don't upload every single Tuesday. I'm trying to get a schedule down for that, like maybe every other Tuesday or something like that, like twice a month. But my Thursdays I upload videos like hauls, story times, lifestyle videos, and then Saturdays are vlogs with my family and my boyfriend. I also have 4 adorable dogs and 2 goats and a cat. So, you know, you don't want to miss this. And also, if you go back in my older videos, I have rats. So, yeah. Like I said, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll subscribe so you're here for the next one. Bye, guys.